Chair.
Is that all?
They're the only apologies that I've received, Chair.
Right, thank you. Minutes of the meeting on 11th of September, you've had those circulated with the agenda. Would someone move those as correct? I've discussed this with our Vice Chairman and it's a reasonable request and we'll do that. Minutes agreed then, is correct? Agreed. Thank you. Declarations of interest? None anywhere. Thank you. You. We do have a number of public speakers this morning. There's a Martin Hodgson from Ripon side, McGrittin, Dean Worthington and Trevor Metcalf about bus services in Ellifield and Long Preston. Didn't know they had any. And with a Robert Lloyd.
And David Vernon now, Chair.
And with an additional gentleman as well. And we'll call them at the relevant time to address us.
Also Mr. McIntosh, Chair. And I will read that out at the time of the item.
That's the written one, is it?
That's the written one.
Yeah.
We don't appear to have Sir Julian yet, Chair. So.
We don't have Sir Julian then. Right, well, we'll take the agenda item that we've accelerated up.
Do you want to take the number 8 now, Chair? Yes. Town Investment Plan Programme.
Yeah, we'll take that and disport of it.
Chair, before that starts then, I have a statement from Mr. Stanley McIntosh, a Ripon resident, in relation to this item. The statement reads as follows. My request is simply that the Ripon Marketplace item be deferred for 4 months and the consultation reopened for at least 3 months. Ripon City Council is not presently a reliable stakeholder. There is governance instability, a no confidence parish poll result, and a formal objection now with the external auditor. The proposals for Ripon in the report pack are weak and underdeveloped compared with the Skipton proposals, and the reference to a Ripon Neighbourhood Plan 2030 appears questionable as no such active plan currently exists. Public engagement has been inadequate and confusing. The consultation closed only yesterday, yet the report appears to have been drafted before that date, leaving residents little chance to comment or propose alternatives. I have previously produced a substantial public report, Ripon Vision 2015, and, with a short extension, I can bring forward serious evidence-based proposals worthy of consideration and investment. Deferral will not jeopardise funding, which runs to 2027, but would greatly improve legitimacy, consultation and design quality. I therefore respectfully ask members to defer the item and reopen consultation for 3 months. Thanks, Chair.
Right, we'll move into presentation. It's like Old Craven District Council down that other end. Who's in charge of you two? introduce yourselves and address us.
So I'm Sharon Hudson. I'm an area manager in the communities team and working closely with economic regen colleagues on the development of the town investment plans across the Skipton and Ripon area. I'd just like to give apologies for Sharon Sunter, who is a principal regeneration officer who's also working on the plans. I think because the report's been moved forward, unfortunately, she's not here to help present the report, and we co-authored the report together. So the report is just to give an update as to where we are so far in terms of developing the town investment plans across Skipton and Ripon. It gives details of the plans currently in development, which is Ripon, which you've just referred to, and we're also working on plans in Pateley Bridge, and Bentham and Massam. And we're about to kickstart the work in Skipton. And then there's also the timetable for how we'll deliver the rest of the plans across Skipton and Ripon over the next 18 months. I think the report is very comprehensive in setting out the work that's done so far, so I won't go through it town by town, but happy to take any questions, assuming that you've all read the report.
Anything to add?
No, nothing to add, Chair, to that. Happy to take
Right.
any questions though on any of the settlements in there.
Right, I've two people indicated so far. The separate elements to debate. Councillor Williams and then Councillor Brodigan, please.
Chair, it would be helpful at this stage to invite the representative from BID to actually address the committee before members actually engage in further questions.
And that person is present. You're on. I think perhaps if someone offers a microphone.
Right, I'm Lilla Bathurst and I manage Ripon Business Improvement District, which has currently 260 members.
Settle down.
So we currently have 260 members who all feed in ideas and their opinions. On the town investment plan, our businesses would very much like to see investment into the market square to increase dwell time. The majority of our visitors into Ripon are day visitors, about 88%, and the majority of visits are fairly short at this stage. Our view is that increasing dwell time in the market square with provision of better seating, more thought out, curved seating, for example. There's been a lot of research that shows that this increases dwell time. It means that people who don't know each other are happy to sit in the same area, whereas the current back-to-back seating doesn't happen. We'd like to look at seasonal pedestrianisation of the south side of the market square. So in the summer months, I think May to October, April to October even, to investigate that to create a bigger events space. We'd like to look, with regard to the emerging projects fund, we'd like to look at flexible seating. So the parklet option, which has been trialled in many places around the country, fits really well because it can be then moved for events. One thing that has cropped up, PowerPoints, we desperately need PowerPoints. Thursday market at the moment is an absolute health hazard with wires trailing, etc. But it would also enable events to happen more easily. The phone boxes in the market square, Ripon City Council has ownership of 3 of 4. Visit North Yorkshire has already invested with us in one of the phone boxes, but until we can get power into that phone box, we can't actually use it. But we're well on with those plans. Doesn't necessarily come under this item, but we need to think strategically about what we do in the town investment plan if we are ever to get the surface of the market square resurfaced. So anything that we do, if it obviously understanding the funding window and when things need delivered, but we need to be aware that that surface does need to be resurfaced at some point. So anything that we do needs to fit in with that. And if we are going to resurface the market square, we must be able to give our businesses enough notice, and it can't be in one of the well, we're a tourist destination all year round, but it can't be just prior to Christmas, for example. And I think, I also would suggest that our businesses would like to see us investigate car parking on the south side of the market square in the off season, and increasing the car parking from a 1 hour limit to a 1.5 hour limit, as long as those extra funds could be ring fenced for Ripon.
Thank you, Mark.
Oh, that's it, right? Yes. There we go. Technology is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Thank you. When it works, yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you, Chair. And can I thank Lilith for bringing forward the issues which are of concern to a large number of businesses within Ripon. And just to add to that, I do in fact have a meeting scheduled with Carl Battersby, Melissa Burnham, and the cabinet member responsible on the 9th of January to look at the surface of the square, because there is a serious issue in terms of seeking to do enhancements to the square, given that the surface in places you're capable of breaking your neck on if you're not looking where you're going. So I think that is an issue which needs to be worked in with any proposed works to the square, of which I broadly support, and I wouldn't support a deferral, because I think that all that would do is make any project potentially undeliverable in terms of the time frame, given that the funding body are wanting schemes which are capable of starting in summer 26. If we delay for 4 months, there's no prospect of us being ready to start in summer 26, and as a result I suspect that the funding wouldn't be prioritised for the scheme as a result. So whilst I understand the residents' concerns over some of the issues affecting Ripon City Council, I don't think that those issues should necessarily lead to an impact on delivery of another project, which would be widely beneficial to the city as a whole. So, as I say, I'm very happy to support the recommendation within the report. I would like to add to it that I think that the area committee ought to be encouraging the resurfacing work of the square to match in with any project that is done. There's a clear need for more PowerPoints, as referenced, that we can't at the moment finish off the refurbishment of the 3 telephone boxes on the square because there's no electricity to supply to them, and the Thursday market and Saturday market are far more dangerous with cables running all over the place because of the lack of PowerPoints on the square. So I think from a safety enhancement, and I also think that we have to think about the space as not a one size fits all 365 days of the year, because at different times of the year the square can have different demands placed upon it. And I concur, indeed, it's one of the issues I've raised previously with the bid, that I think that, for example, on a cold, wet day such as today and in January and February, when no one wants to sit around on the square, we have a large area within the central part of Ripon which has no purpose or function, and it would clearly be sensible to try and utilise it as we did years ago for car parking at that time of year, to encourage people who reside in the villages to come into Ripon and be able to do their shopping and go home, rather than, as I say, having a dead space. But at other times of the year, the last thing I'd want to see on there is cars, when we can have potentially visitors, residents enjoying the square, socialising, sitting in a revamped environment that actually makes it pleasant to sit and enjoy the ambience of the central area of Ripon. So I think we do have to almost take it as a month by month approach as to how that southern end of the square can be best used to deliver the best outcomes for the city, its residents, its visitors, and importantly, very importantly, the local business community. The other thing that I'd like the area committee, and I'll again add this to the proposal, I'd like the area committee's support for the general principle of investigating pedestrianisation of both Kirkgate and Marketplace South, which have been requests made by Ripon City Council earlier this year, and which currently are receiving knockback from the area highways team, who are refusing to engage in actually seeking to develop them. They are effectively refusing to do so, and I think that is disappointing. And again, that is part of the meeting scheduled for the 9th of January to try and break that log jam, because clearly there are times of the year when opening up parts of the city purely to pedestrians would be beneficial to the economic environment and well-being of the city, whilst there's other times of the year clearly not. And I do hope that a more positive, proactive approach can be adopted by our highways team rather than the blanket no, which has been the case to date. So, as I say, in summary, really welcome the proposal. I think that it will be a huge plus to Ripon, and I'd like as I say, the area committee to support the principle of the highways department doing some proper consultation over pedestrianisation of Kirkgate and Marketplace South on a seasonal basis, and also the issues surrounding the surface of the square need to be addressed, because there's no point putting new facilities onto a surface which is in parts quite dangerous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. The two presentations so far have been somewhat lengthy, and I would hope members from here on in can be rather briefer than that. Otherwise, we'll be coming back to finish this meeting in the morning. We just need to concentrate on the actual points. Councillor Mrs. Brodigan, please.
There we go. Thank you, Chair. Yes, I will try and be brief. Okay. Yes, despite what people probably see in the papers and in the media, I actually do agree with what Councillor Williams says, and what certainly support what the bid is putting forward. I'd like to thank the officers for the hard work that you've put into developing this project, and certainly in the consultation that you did. It was very extensive. I did attend one of the sessions when you did the cultural and heritage one, and it was really interesting to see some of the information that came out of that. So I think most people in Ripon who participated would feel that they have been listened to. Certainly they've been consulted. Ripon has got great potential and it is underperforming, and it would be wonderful to actually see this project come to fruition. It's been a long time coming. Ripon does have a bit of a chip on its shoulder with regards to what has, where it feels neglected in the past. So thank you for putting this this forward. I would like to add to some of the ideas that have been put forward. Certainly more greening in the city. We do have in the market square, we do have some trees round about, but even some of and there are some sort of boxes with flowers in and that sort of thing, but certainly more greening around that when you're looking at updating it. And I noticed the obelisk hasn't been mentioned. And I believe there might be some health and safety issues with that, with the horn or whatever it is on the top. So certainly looking at looking after the obelisk and making sure that it is not only safe, but it is actually going to last for a long time. Pedestrianisation, I'm all for that. I would actually like to see the whole of the market square pedestrianised, but we do have an issue with car parking in Ripon. I support the idea of using the car, extending the car park into the south of the marketplace in the winter time. But certainly, if we're going to encourage footfall, then looking at cars is not a pretty sight, to be perfectly honest. So if we're going to extend that in the south side, I would like that to be limited into some of the winter areas season. I support pedestrianisation of Kirkgate, most definitely. I've been working with some of the businesses there, as indeed Councillor Williams has. We've had a number of meetings with regards to that. It's supposed to be pedestrianised now, but I walk down there every day and I have to jump on the pavement every time when there's cars going down. It's not right, and it certainly doesn't support the businesses there. We're moving more towards a cafe society, post-pandemic. People have got used to sitting outside with heaters and blankets and things like that, and doesn't appear to be encouraged very much. It is in Harrogate. I have seen this in other areas, but certainly not in Ripon, and I think that would certainly help the hospitality businesses in Ripon. So to cut it short, thank you very much for what you've done so far, and hopefully this will come to fruition as soon as possible.
Mr. Councillor David Staveley, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, obviously we've had representations made by bids, representation from a resident, and without putting too fine a point on it, yes, there has been elements within Ripon Town that have been fighting like cats in a sack, it would appear, if the local media used to be believed. But ultimately, I think the comparison between what has happened or what has been planned in Craven compared to Ripon is more to do with historic neglect rather than the actions of this authority. It's good to see that there is something moving forward now. I certainly don't think any further delay would help that end. It was interesting from listening from the bid about their aspirations for overnight stays to be increased, given that we've got a new mayor who's now talking about taxing bedrooms for tourists, which would seem to be a slightly retrograde step if you're trying to encourage people to come and stop for the night. But anyway, we can only deal with what we can deal with at this committee, and I think the points raised have been very positive, and it's good to see something happening in Ripon. So I think I would probably support what's been suggested in the recommendations. Obviously, there's some other finer details. Some that Councillor Bodigan's mentioned, I dare say, might be more within the gift of the bid if it's talk of re-greening and so on. But I think in terms of the infrastructure of the market square and so on, those projects should be looked at, and if highways need to be held to account, for want of a better description, in terms of consulting on some of these aspirations, I think this committee should certainly make note of that and recommend that that's brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Vice Chairman, Andy Holloway.
Just very quickly reading the report, and we've heard for a call to delay it, but it seems that another area, one part of Craven as well, Bentham, seem to have done extremely well. And I'd just like to commend them. They've managed to pull in about £130,000 worth of funding already, plus individual grants for businesses. So they've kind of cracked on with it. And I would suggest basically that Ripon does the same, because otherwise you could miss out on this funding. And you wouldn't like to do that. Bentham seems to, I'd like to commend Bentham for what they've done.
Any other comment on Ripon?
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Brown.
great to see the moves to do something for the marketplace, because it screams out for massive improvements and the cafe society sort of idea. You're not going to get there until you fully pedestrianise it, in my opinion. It's always going to look squalid whilst there's a mix of cars, but this is a step forward. Great. The main thing I want to say is I just think the lack of ambition about where we go with Ripon generally needs to be addressed thinking forward. We have this huge housing scheme going in with millions of funding being released into the Ripon community. We need a major matched funding project around that release of cash from the housing scheme, and we need development team working with the mayor's office to get us there.
If I can just mention the Clother Home development in Ripon, we have been in conversation with Homes England to link in with the town investment plan, and their engagement team have put on hold their engagement until we've concluded this initial exercise, because that will inform how they develop their proposals moving forward. So they are linked in to how we develop the plan.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir, Chair. While I agree with almost everything Councillor Staveley just said, adding to the discussion or summarising discussion, I do personally support the idea of a tourist tax. I think if you travel to Europe, it's very common to spend that. If it was ring fenced in the area, I remember paying something like €6 a night in Florence, huge destination, and then €1 other places per night per person. To me, it's acceptable as long as it's ring fenced and doesn't go into the general pot. So people travelling to Ripon, enjoying the offer that Ripon offers, for example, or Settle or Skipton, if that money's ring fenced for the local area to support cultural initiatives, then I would fully support that. So otherwise, I agree with everything Councillor Staveley said.
This does appear to be a very topical subject. Councillor Foster.
Yeah.
Keep it brief and then please.
I could get into debate with my learned colleague over there on the tourism tax. Needless to say that a £2 increase on the price of a static caravan on the coast will be a considerable increase. So how the tourism tax is brought in is very important to North Yorkshire. What I would say, the Bentham project, very much so, the community worked really closely. It's a legacy project from Craven with the master plan already being in place. So it just goes to show that if you get the master plans in place when the funding does come forward, you can start to deliver. I think that's really crucial. And doing it alongside the community, which I think we've done really well in Bentham, so they are getting what they want. So hopefully Ripon, along with the community and the bid and people like that, can start to get what they want in Ripon through the funding schemes. So fingers crossed. So I'm happy to move this report anyway, and let's move it forward, because I'm really keen that we get on and get these master plans delivered, because when the funding does come forward, we need master plans.
We're not debating the tourist tax. That is not on the agenda. It is not on the table. That's before Mr. Simon Myers addresses us.
It's a slight red rag to a bull. If you've been at Gargrove Parish Council last night, Chairman, you'd have heard my views on socialist governments imposing taxation on business, increasing business rates, increasing
politics isn't on the table.
But I'm not going to talk about it because it's not on the agenda. I think it's very good for people who don't run businesses to think businesses should pay. However, does Councillor Williams, Councillor Rodigan, want us to add to the recommendation that we would like highways to meaningfully engage on the issue of pedestrianisation? Because if somebody could put that in a form of words, then
that has already been put.
Right, fine. Very happy with that.
Can we conclude the element of the written debate then? My only comment personally would be that in these times of financial difficulties, looks like going to run for a year or two, any delay would not be helpful to progress any scheme. So please, no delays. think of Wyvern Park, you Craven, ex-Craven members, who've gone from virtually being there to it's gone over the horizon. So the written element we can agree with in the recommendation, plus the pedestrianisation. Any other comments on this agenda item? Nothing, no one wants to speak on Skipton or Gargrave? Councillor Myers.
Gargrave sadly doesn't get a mention, but yeah, I welcome the proposal as regards Skipton. I don't think when I look back at the master plan that we devised for Skipton, when we all sat on a predecessor council, I'm not sure it seems terribly ambitious to restore a bit more towpath. There was a lot more in our master plan and a lot more that we thought could be done to benefit Skipton. However, let's take what we can at the moment, but I hope we won't lose sight of the much more ambitious schemes that we had to improve the lives for residents and visitors to Skipton and the local economy, because we did do a lot of work on it, and I know officers here did a lot of work on it, so we mustn't lose sight of that as funding becomes available. Let's hope it does.
Right, you've spoken once, young man. Christmas, isn't it? Go on then.
Yeah, just briefly on the forward plan for the other settlements that are going to be included, just a request that all local members are kept in the loop and involved in that process, because I know sometimes it's easy to sort of bypass the enthusiastic amateurs that are councillors, but obviously we have that local input that we would like to see included in that. So I'll just put that marker down. Thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Right, we're endorsing both recommendations on page 87, with the addition of the additional comments from Councillor Williams and Mrs. Brodigan. Agreed? Right. Put that to bed. Right. Do we have a distant guest available?
Chairs can see the screen.
Right, we've settled down. Good morning, Sir Julian. Is he with us?
Yeah, I am. Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Could someone turn the volume up, please?
Can you hear me okay?
211.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can, Chair.
And we can hear you as well.
Good. Good morning.
Sorry to have kept you waiting, Sir Julian. An initial comment might be that Westminster has not covered itself in much glory of late.
Well, I obviously
Debate.
Yeah, well, obviously everybody will have their own views of recent events, and it's very good to be with you this morning, Chair. And I hope you have received the various updates, the written parliamentary questions, the letters taken up since our last meeting on various topics. Some of those responses from government are still due, but I think there were a number of written questions, particularly on farming and other areas. And I just wanted to start, Chair, by paying tribute to North Yorkshire Council. There's obviously been a number of discussion items today, but there were two things I've done recently which made me very relieved that we have such a good council. One is the Highways Department's execution of the Keckskill bypass, which I visited with the Shadow Transport Minister last week. It's an exceptional project. It's the balance between environment and the need to get that transport link fixed has meant that I think there's been excellent work there. And also the third position nationally for adult and social care is a massive tribute to officers and to councillors in North Yorkshire. So I just wanted to start off my brief remarks with that. The last few months have been focused on basically representing the challenges of farming in our area with PMQs and various other mechanisms to try and improve, particularly on the taxation of family farms, and also trying to ensure that the Airedale Hospital funding and project accelerates. We've had some very good news in Ripon, where the Ripon Hospital has been upgraded to an urgent care facility with more resources coming into that. And that is a positive move. Obviously, Chair, at Westminster, the main issue in recent weeks has been the budget. And I take your guide not to be political, but I think just a few comments. As councillors will have found, particularly in the hospitality industry, but amongst almost all small businesses, which make up the bulk of employment in the area that we all represent, there is huge pressure coming from energy costs, coming from taxation, coming from business rates, to the point where businesses that are turning over large amounts of money are struggling even to make a profit. That's not even speaking about businesses which are struggling with footfall and demand. I think this taxation tourist tax proposal by the Chancellor is a hammer blow to hospitality businesses in this area, and I'll be fighting that every step of the way. We cannot add to the burden on these women and men that are creating wealth. That is what we rely on for jobs. And we also have a major attack coming not only on business rates, where there's huge increases on the way, but also, unfortunately, on the rise of the minimum wage, which is pricing out young people. And I think many of you will have friends or have family members who are leaving university and unable to get jobs. We need to make it easier for young people to get onto the jobs market. So I think, again, we want to make sure that we have success over the coming years, but there were elements of this budget that really come to the heart of growth in our area, and I will be fighting on the side of those people that are taking risk to create jobs and create wealth. On that note, Chair, obviously happy to take any questions.
Depending on the questions, whether you'll be happy, I think. Councillor Myers, please, first.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Sir Julian.
I've been outmanoeuvred on this tourist tax.
Yes, we're trying to avoid talking about the tourism tax, Julian, but you have referred to extra costs imposed on businesses that are a very important part of the local economy in North Yorkshire, particularly in rural North Yorkshire and on the coast, but also in our main towns and cities. And it may interest those who think that a tourist tax is a jolly good idea to know that the proposed business rate changes will mean, on average, for every pub in North Yorkshire, 12,000 a year more in business rates, and for the average hotel in North Yorkshire, £200,000 a year in additional business rates. So if you put that in the mix with increases in NIC and the minimum wage and a faltering economy and a loosening off of demand, and then think it's a jolly good idea to tax those people more, I'm afraid you're barking up the wrong tree, and you have no understanding of who supplies the jobs for our young people and people across North Yorkshire. So I encourage you to oppose this, Julian, and I'm right behind you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And look, whether these entrepreneurs, however they vote, this issue, I think, is very existential to businesses in our area and to growth. The thing I should have actually said, Chair, also in my opening remarks, is I've been working with Carl and the team on the overall local government funding envelope, because obviously we've had the rural grant removed, and now we've got a tough financial settlement, and been working with other North Yorkshire colleagues, MP colleagues, to try to ensure we get that into a decent place.
Andy Brown next, please.
Yeah, two things. Firstly, I was surprised to hear you praising the Keck Skill scheme. I mean, great idea that we do Keck Skill, but the 11.7 million overspend was a shattering blow to North Yorkshire Council's finances, and something we should all be really concerned about. I mean, how that got so badly managed that that amount of loss occurred, and we weren't informed as a council until after the event that it was developing. Appalling mismanagement, in my opinion. Second point is on the tourist tax. I would encourage you to be careful about being intelligent on it rather than assuming it has to be targeted in such a crude way that it would hit pubs, etc. We have no end of Airbnbs going in, and we have areas like Whitby, Scarborough, and we just heard about Ripon, where there's a real need for investment in some facilities that are tatty. I would be overjoyed to see Airbnbs being taxed and the money being used to address the improvement of those areas which people are coming to see, but paying very little to help maintain.
Well, Andy, look, I note your remarks. I think, as you know, I'm usually very balanced, but I'm now fully concerned about what I'm hearing in my discussions with business owners. We need risk capital to create jobs, and that is being repressed by these demands on them. It's not a political point. It's just I just hear people out there desperate for the pressure to come off. And as I said at the start, this is not just taxation, it's energy costs, it's other issues. But we saved many of these businesses during COVID, and we're going to lose many of these businesses if we're not careful. On the Keck Skill issue, I know there have been various issues, and I'm not here to defend the council. One thing I noted was in discussions with the contractor, we're talking 20-25% of the costs on environmental related mitigations. Now, obviously, it's the Nidderdale National Park. We have to make sure that that is very well cared for. But when I saw rocks for lizards to bathe on, and demands that no works for the watercourses for 9 months a year could take place, it was clear to me why some of these costs has inflated. And I think as a country, we do need to look at how we better balance environment with some of these schemes, because that scheme for Transpennine Transport is vital. We've got A66 and we've got this project, and it's really important for our area.
I'd ask you to correct your facts on that no part of the overspend was due to environmental concerns. It was due to a miscalculation of the nature of the ground and incompetence in managing it.
Well, Andy, all I would say is that I'm absolutely certain that the cost of that project and the cost of projects across the country are vastly increased by the demands put on them on some of these environmental mitigations. Clearly, we need to protect our environment. But when you're talking about bathing rocks for lizards, I think we need to be asking ourselves a question on taxpayer value for money.
Mr. Brown, please do not interrupt. And if you wish to speak, please indicate. That applies to everybody. Yeah. Right, it's Mr. Councillor Andrew Murday, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sir Julian. Going back to agriculture, I wanted to ask you to press the Department of DEFRA to come to a conclusion about how they're going to continue to support farming in the protected landscape, particularly regenerative farming, because FIPL, for those of us that know about FIPL, is an extremely valuable way of encouraging regenerative farming, which actually in the right hands is more productive than traditional methods. But we don't know what's going to happen after the end of March next year. And that sort of instability is crying out for government intervention to say what's going to proceed from it. So perhaps I could ask you to bring that to the attention of the ministers in DEFRA.
Yep. Okay. No, I'm very happy to, and I think you know, on that, and then on other issues, whether it's capital grants to farmers or whether it's the schemes, you know, you're right that we just need we need clarity. So yes, happy to do that. And
Right, and Andrew Williams, please, next.
Morning, Julian. I want to continue from where Simon left off, particularly in terms of the hit that the hospitality sector is facing as a result of the ludicrous proposals which the government are bringing forward. The rateable value, for example, on Grantley Hall is set to increase from £295,000 to £1.118 million annually. You'll be aware of the landladies at the Black Swan in Ripon. They're set to see their rateable value more than double as a result of the government proposals. And as Simon has said, on top of increases to the minimum wage and national insurance rises, this is a huge hit to the hospitality sector, which is crucial to large parts of North Yorkshire's economy. It is perhaps more so here in North Yorkshire than in many parts of the country. And I'd like you to get over, although I think others have tried and failed, so you may well also, to get over to the Chancellor when she proudly boasts that she's given millions of people a pay rise by increasing the minimum wage. She hasn't given them a single penny. It's hard-pressed business owners who are having to actually find the pay rise. And whilst I'm not obviously opposed to people having pay rises, they have to be balanced against the risk to actually jobs being destroyed, businesses closed, and as a result, communities severely impacted. And I don't think the Chancellor, quite frankly, got a clue about the impact that a large part of the measures which they're bringing forward will have on economies such as ours in North Yorkshire.
yeah, I think that's right, Andrew. I mean, I think this, you know, you've articulated again the pressures that people, you know, are feeling, and I think these rate rises, that, you know, there's transitional relief that has been announced, but you know, still, even with those proposals, it's going to be, as you've outlined, very expensive. And I think it's just really important for this committee. What I'm hearing is both the stress and also the decision not to invest in new jobs and new markets. And the consequence of that is for the young people who are in our area who either are leaving university or coming out of college or coming out of school who need jobs. Those jobs, you know, will not be there. And these are really successful businesses reporting this, that, you know, they're reining in investment, and we really need to get them to take it. Chair, I've asked Kate Nichols, who's the chairwoman of Hospitality UK, to come to Skipton and Ripon, and she's agreed and will be hosting. And it'd be great if many councillors can come, you know, to an event with her early in 2026.
All right, Andrew. Councillor Philip Barrett, please.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, Sir William, Sir Julian. Yeah, right, a minute. I've been waiting that long, you see, to join into this. I thought, oh, going to be next.
Yeah,
Going to be next. Yeah. Anyway, mine is a very long-standing issue which I wanted to hopefully ask you to engage with Network Rail about. You'll be aware of the signalling issues on the Air Valley line, which have a very large impact on the network in South Craven. We've got to the situation now that Kilwick Roundabout just snarls up several times a day, you know, all the way around it. and this is due to the signalling on the line. It's only a start, is this? But what I wanted to ask you, Sir Julian, was if you would engage with Network Rail about it, you know, to kickstart this, to get some issues going about this signalling on the line, which causes these immense delays. It isn't just for local people I'm talking about. I'm talking for heavy goods, people going through over into Lancashire. It is a strategic route. It isn't just up the Aire Valley. It's through Cross Hills, going on the A6068. You know, so it causes major impact on there. The other thing which I'd just bring to mind also is, obviously, you've shown your support for the CellRAP from Skipton to Colne line, but clearly factored into anything there, if that ever does get built, does the impact on the signalling and delays on the Aire Valley line, which if they start bringing more freight down there, it's obviously going to make the situation even worse. So it's just an initial ask, really, if you would engage with Network Rail about it. I've engaged many times in the past, both with the Highway Authority and Network Rail, but we can see the results we haven't got. You know, all we've got is a worsening situation, and it really does need investigating, Sir Julian, and I'd welcome your support in actually looking into that through this committee. Thank you.
Apologies, Julian, you're on mute.
Councillor Barrett, thank you. Yeah, maybe we should have a cup of tea in the new year, and just so I can understand where you've got to with it. Obviously, I'm very aware of those challenges, and it is a major issue. Balanced with the fact that obviously the services into Connolly, Skipton, and beyond are extremely good on what I think in terms of regularity and speed from Leeds. But you're right, there needs to be better balance. So why don't we meet in the new year and then we can sort of work out how to take that forward.
I very much welcome that. I'll look forward to hearing from your secretary. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Sir Julian. Clearly, we talked about two major cornerstones of rural life this morning, tourism and hospitality, which I think we've sort of talked enough about how that's under attack from various different decisions by our Chancellor. We'll just say that I believe that her economic prowess is only matched by her chess prowess. Anyway, but the other point I think that I would make is something that I know that you've campaigned on, and unfortunately we've not had much luck with, and this is the family farm tax. Now that vote's gone through, and it would appear that only one member of the ruling party actually had the backbone to show some integrity and vote against that, which was disappointing. I know many abstained, but you know, it was a manifesto commitment originally, and that's been gone back on, and it's drastically affecting potentially an awful lot of our communities and our families, and as I said, the wider economy. What is the next step? Do you feel that there is any leeway that we can try and get to raise the threshold so that it might not affect just as many actual functioning family farms, and rather than the misguided belief that all these farms are an embarrassment of riches and they're just there as a plaything, the tax dodge for the well-heeled? Because you know, clearly I think we've all got a lot of residents who are concerned about this, either directly or indirectly by the impacts of this. Could you give us an update on where you feel you can go next with that, please?
So yes, David, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. The government, so I voted against this tax on Tuesday night in the budget resolutions. We had there had been actually a very good report that by the Centre for Taxation, which actually looked at how the government could get similar amounts of money, but take the pressure off the smaller family farms, as you've outlined. So you up the threshold to about 5 million. It clobbered the bigger investors more, essentially. The government has done a very small measure of being, the couple allowance being put in place, but I think we just need to keep making the point on this of the consequences. As you've outlined, Mr. Campbell Savers was the only government member to rebel, but I think we need just to keep being on the side of the of those farming families that are going to really struggle with this tax, and keep moving the issue forward. I mean, there's always the ability for the government to make changes. I thought they would change a little bit in this budget, but that hasn't happened. But we just need to keep the pressure up, because my worry for many of the hill farms and the farms that are not making huge amounts of annual profit in our area is that the next generation will really struggle to take these farms going forward.
No other questions for Sir Julian? Could I then thank you, Sir Julian, for not just attending today and speaking to us, but for all the work that you do for your constituents of Skipton and Ripon 52 weeks a year. We wish you a very contented Christmas, but when it comes to the new year, all that we can hope for, I think, is living hope for a prosperous new year. That's more than anything else that we need. Thank you very much, Sir Julian.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to everybody. I think it's a good team effort, and I've appreciated these meetings this year, and I think I also appreciate the spirit in which they're held on us trying to work together in an environment where working together is not always flavour of the month. I think whatever our political persuasions, or the questions from this committee and the comments and the work we're doing, is trying to do the best thing we can for our amazing area. So thank you, and I hope both you, Chair, your officials, the officials of this committee, and all councillors have a very successful and safe Christmas.
Thank you very much. God bless. Right, that takes us, I believe, back to item 4. We have a number of public questions and statements, some of which we will take now, and at least one we'll take on the agenda item.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, it is public participation, but it's going to be mainly me at this stage, because I'm reading questions out and giving a summary to the answer. There are 2 further questions that will be taken when we take the Nidderdale Greenway extension item. So I'll start with the first question statement from Mr. Martin Hodgson from Hayshaw Nidderdale. North Yorkshire Council is understandably concerned at the increased cost if many side roads secure priority 2 winter maintenance status, and it is appreciated that not all can therefore be quickly cleared. However, there are some particularly vulnerable locations, and Hayshaw is such a special case as summarised below. The sole access into Hayshaw is a steep cul-de-sac and is vital for residents and dairy farmer tankers to access the road network for work, school, etc. In winter, it often becomes impassable, even for most 4-wheel drive vehicles due to icing up and snow drifts. Hayshaw regularly experiences much worse winter conditions than most of the Dale. The road is northeast facing, so that unless treated, it is often a layer of solid, compacted snow and ice impassable for many. Up to recent years, it has P2 status and was also always cleared and gritted. It is unclear why this status was changed. Emergency vehicle access is frequently not possible in winter without the road being gritted. A telling case was last winter when a resident suffered a heart attack. However, without any gritting, the emergency ambulance was unable to attend and the gentleman died. 2 winters ago, a gentleman was taken seriously ill, and even a specialist 4-wheel drive ambulance struggled to access. Eventually, he was taken to hospital, but later passed away. Hayshaw Road is directly next to existing Priority 2 road and would only require a mere extra 400 metres to the current P2 gritting run, and the additional cost will be marginal. The priority category of Hayshaw Road was until recently P2, thus recognising its particular vulnerability. Why and how this was changed to the current priority 3 is not known. The council's policy specifically allows unclassified road to be given P2 status and ought therefore to be implemented for such a very special case as Hayshaw Road. This is a brief summary of a paper agreed by all Hayshaw residents and workers. To avoid more fatalities, other serious outcomes and major disruption, we ask members to approve priority 2 status for the Hayshaw Road. Chair, I have requested a response to this from the appropriate officers. This is awaited at this time, and I will deliver that response to the gentleman questioner and to all members of the committee when I receive that.
Thank you, that one.
Right, there's another question, Chair, and it's read out by me again. And
there's no debate on these issues. Yeah.
Okay, Chair, I'll move on to the next question. I would like to draw attention to our local rural bus service provided by Kirkby Lonsdale Bus Service, the service 580, which runs from Settle to Skipton and return. The company also runs the 581 Settle to Lancaster, which links up with the 580. For some time, residents of both villages have been unhappy with how this service is managed. Examples can be given if requested at the end of the presentation. They can't because they're not here, but anyway. The current service is quite limited and not fit for purpose, which leaves people who are not to drive isolated at the weekends, especially Sundays. Attempts to involve the Dalesway Sunday service have failed. I'm informed no budget for this year, therefore residents cannot access this service and explore the Dales on Sundays or travel anywhere. Our aim is to campaign to have a bus service that is fit for purpose. We are aware and welcome new legislation such as the Bus Services Act 2025 and North Yorkshire Council's bus service improvement plans. I am informed that there will be a public consultation and a robust passenger charter implemented, much needed for our 580-581 bus service. We wish to be kept informed and possibly involved with this process, our main agenda being that everyone in both villages get adequate notice of developments which can be printed in our parish magazines and distributed to all households, as well as being community involvement put online via social media. We are aware following the recent National Park Survey re-access to the Dales when it was promoted online and gave little or no chance of getting this promoted in our parish magazines, and sadly missed contributions by those groups pertinent to their survey. We want a meaningful response from the people of Long Preston and Hellifield. We want a fit-for-purpose service to meet passenger needs, to avoid social isolation and improved quality of life, and practical solutions to break down barriers to independence. Sought a response to this and received one from Andrew Clark in Transport Services, and there is the officer's response. The 580 service from Settle to Skipton via Hellifield and Long Preston is operated commercially by Kirkby Lonsdale Coach Hire, and service 581 from Kirkby Lonsdale to Settle is contracted by North Yorkshire Council. The 580 timetable runs hourly on Mondays to Fridays and 2 hourly on Saturdays, and the 581 runs 2 hourly Mondays to Saturdays. The aim of our public transport policy is to give residents in villages across the county access to a local centre for shopping, health appointments, education, employment and leisure activities. Where there are no commercially viable bus routes, the council can subsidise services, but with the funding that is available, the most frequent timetable we can specify is a 2-hour daily service running on either 5 or 6 days per week. The council also provides support for Dales Bus, who commissions some Sunday and bank holiday routes to the Dales. There are any suggestions for ways to improve the timetable within the resources currently available, or operational problems with either bus route, then please contact the public transport team. Both routes can be subject to traffic delays on the A65. With such a long route, this makes managing service disruption difficult for the bus company. Following the creation of York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority, the Mayor now holds all statutory powers involving public transport. The Combined Authority has recently commissioned a review of the current bus network and will be developing a new bus service improvement plan in 2026. The network review will be looking at current provision and options for delivering improvements once the review is completed. We expect that there will be further engagement by the Mayor's team on the conclusions reached and how to take things forward, and we will ensure that parishioners can play a part in this process. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lodge. Right, the other two public speakers will speak at the beginning of the item on the Greenway.
That's correct, Chair.
Right. Could I remind all members that
You no need to remind me, Chairman. I'll be very brief.
there's no debate actually. But
I know there's going to be no debate, but I would like an explanation.
on a point of explanation, we'll take it.
Right, thank you. A resident of Ingleton contacted North Yorkshire County Council and yourself about and asking whether this committee, you as chairman, would write to ASDA for an explanation why diesel or fuel costs are 5 pence dearer in Ingleton than what they are at their garage in Settle. It's an explanation of why the residents of that area are paying more from the same company. I don't see that anywhere. You sent an acknowledgement. You sent an acknowledgement to say that you received that. So where do we go from there?
We brought this up at officer briefing a few weeks ago about this disparity, which basically is a commercial decision of that company. A strange one to say the two diesel petrol outlets are so near. And I asked our officers at that time to consider an agenda item that would include that question and also the points that are raised by Nick Brown about the cost of energy in rural areas, i.e. propane gas and such like. Steve, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, that's been put onto the work programme. We couldn't get a report for this meeting, so it will be delivered to the next meeting of the area committee, a full report giving details of the issues raised in relation to that.
Has the resident been notified of the action that's going to be taken? Because I'm pretty sure he'll be expecting this to be raised in public participation this morning. He fully appreciates that the costing is nothing to do with us. What he's after is an explanation of why, and he's looking for this committee to help him. Thank you.
Chair, in response to that, could I have the details of the questioner, please, because they have not come through to me. So if I can have those details, then I will respond to the gentleman straight away.
Yes, I'll say that Mr. Lodge gets those. Right. Certainly, sir. Right, item 6, can we move to, please? Wyvern Park. Officers, who do we have? I believe we have Helen Watson, Senior Engineer, Major Projects, and Mr. Alan McVeigh himself. Who's leading?
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. I was going to go through the report and we're both here for any questions afterwards. So, thank you. I'm Helen Watson. I'm Senior Engineer in the Major Projects team. In August, responsibility for the Wyvern Link project, it transferred from the regeneration team in the Community Development Directorate over to Major Projects in the Environment Directorate. The Major Projects team is one of several teams within Network Strategy, and Alan McVeigh, Head of Network Strategy, sitting to my right. The report gives an update on the proposed Wyvern Link Road in Skipton. It sets out the history and rationale for the Link Road and explains that phase 1, upgrading Engine Shed Lane and Ings Lane, is already complete, and that feasibility and outline design for Wyvern Link Road has already been undertaken. The report sets out the work that's yet to be done and the timescales to update the historic design work and also update the construction cost estimate. There's no funding allocated for the construction of this scheme included in the council's current capital plan. An updated business case is needed in order to seek funding. So just taking a closer look at the funding position, Wyvern Link Road is included on the council's major schemes pipeline, but the construction costs for it are not included in the council's current capital plan. And although Craven District Council had included the scheme in its capital programme, the scheme was at the point of in principle approval. Funding had not been identified, and so there was no funding carried over from Craven to North Yorkshire to pay for the scheme. So as such, our task in the major projects team now is to move this project forward so it can be considered for capital funding under the council's processes. I need to thank my Skipton-based Regen colleagues for providing me with a really good handover and introduction to this scheme because I was new to it. They've helped me understand the complexity of it and the importance of it. They've shown me the complexity of phase 1 already completed, and I've seen how much dedication and effort has gone into getting the scheme to where it is now and how important this link road is. So where are we now? Regen colleagues have secured a grant of £90,000 from the combined mayoral authority to continue with the design and development work. The alignment of the new road is accepted, and given the current design accepts that flood level will be above the new road surface at times, we'd like to take the opportunity to review if there are any alternative methods of construction that may help minimise the flood impact. So our next steps are, and within 6 months of us instructing them, our design specialists will review whether the existing design is satisfactory and either update that design in line with current discussions with the Environment Agency, or they'll provide initial designs on a revised construction method, and crucially they will update the construction cost information. The previous business case from 2018 covered a package of 4 elements, so the business case will be updated to consider Wyvern Link as a standalone project. Once we have the design and construction costs updated and the business case updated, we can seek to identify potential sources of funding. All available sources of funding would be explored. And to close, I would just like to reassure this committee that we will do all we can to progress this project so that it can be put forward for consideration for capital funding under the council's processes as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr McVeigh, anything to add at this time?
Nothing further.
Right, the local member for Wyvern Park is sat at side of me here, Andy Soloway, the county North Yorkshire member for that area. Councillor Soloway.
Thank you. Yeah,
you might just delve into what progress and when.
Okay. I may well be the local member whose ward this happens to sit in, but it has a much, much wider effect on the whole area. So other councillors' wards are pretty directly affected by the lack of a link road there. Going through a few of I'm looking around the table here. most of us round here sat on the various policy committees, extraordinary general meetings of council at Craven District Council, and debated this, went over the plans, were very, very convinced by the business case at the time. We saw that. I mean, it was during the pandemic, so those meetings happened online. The papers were exempt papers, so they're not easy to access anyway. But most of us around here have given this project a thorough debate. The first point is that the link road will absolutely transform the way traffic moves around Skipton, because it will move heavy traffic away from the Victorian infrastructure that's already there, that causes so many problems in the town. So that's a very strong business case. Number two, one of the reasons we also at the time debated and agreed to keep the waste management depot where it is on Engine Shed Lane. Other alternatives were put forward at the time. One of the rationales for keeping the depot there was a link road that would take waste management vehicles and bin lorries straight out to the bypass to serve South Craven and North Craven. So again, directly affected other areas. Thirdly, in that area, our counting at the moment around about 250 new houses that have been built in that area since the map was produced here. So that's extra traffic on the road that will benefit from that link road. There is a business already being built there that's got planning permission, is being built there. There's already starting work on economic development there on employment-based sites there. So this link road is absolutely vital for it. I'm looking at the costs as well. 2.2 to 4 million pounds we're allocating to do 160 metres of road. I've just done a few little sort of calculations. That's about as expensive as it's costing us to do Kexgill per metre. So I'm just wondering about the actual figures there in terms of it's 160 yards of link road that would transform the way traffic moves around Skipton. This road has become affectionately known as the road to nowhere. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm into my music and I'm a musician. And that was a song that became a minor hit for a band called Talking Heads from America. And the songwriter for the Talking Heads is called David Byrne. And he was in an interview where he explained where he got the idea for the name of the band Talking Heads. And he said, well, it's when public figures and politicians appear on television and talk about things, but don't actually progress them. And I don't want us to have that reputation from this. Let's progress this. Otherwise, we will look like a bunch of talking heads. So I'd like to, I would happy for anybody to propose. I would propose that I would like this project delivered during the lifetime of this current council and this current administration. I don't want to delay it any further. A new council could take over and decide that it's completely not the priority. I'd like it delivered, and I'd like it delivered by this area committee. It's exactly what area committees should be doing. If we can progress schemes, like we've talked about development in Ripon and developments in economic development, this is an economic development proposal here, and I think that we should be progressed from this area committee. So I'd really like to kick this off, please.
I do believe that we members and officers ought to take Andy Holloway's words as thought for the day, and perhaps later in the day just consider the principles behind it. Councillor David Staveley.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, we don't need to justify this. That debate's been had. I defy anybody to come up with a reason why we shouldn't do it. I really would, because if you can come up with one, I'll give you a counter argument. I'm damn sure. I mean, this isn't my patch, so I have to say, but even I can understand the importance of this to how Skipton works. This is part of a bigger project. Craven District built the house. North Yorkshire need to put the roof on it now. So I don't think there's any concerns about why we need to do this. What we need to discuss is the money. Pounds, shillings and pence. That's where the debate's going to be today. So members, please, let's focus on that. We do need to decide where the money's come from or where it's been or where it might have been. But whatever happens, we need to get this done. It has to be a priority. You've got Skipton on a chokehold. absolutely disgusting, really, to be bluntly honest with you, because the people of Skipton and the surrounding area who see Skipton as the economic focus for the area were promised an awful lot when this project was done, because an awful lot of their money, Craven District as it was then, public money, was spent on this wider project, and this bit that's missing, it's fundamentally flawed, that whole process. So I think there's a lot of dissent in the wider community on this, and there's community representatives. It's up to us to find a way to deliver it. So that means that the pressure's on you down there, looking at your papers and your laptops. But as I say, let's keep on the money, please. Thank you.
Before I bring Andy Brown in, on page 17, 12, North, paragraph 13, recommendations, as they're in front of us, could someone be giving some thought as to strengthening those recommendations? Andy Brown.
Yeah, I mean, it is something we're all pretty much solidly in agreement with. I mean, it's a rare example of us all having a very clear vision of what we wanted to achieve. There was a set of housing, there was a set of industry, there was a set of improvements to the transports. The whole thing was to work coherently together. And now what we've got is a gap of 150 yards that's letting down the whole scheme. And it does have an impact on other wards. It's why heavy traffic gets directed by sat-navs through my villages and knocks into the institute, etc. So we're all strongly behind it. Having to start again from scratch with a business plan feels really, really painful. But I think that's where we are. And I think we should be saying this. This committee is shocked to find that a project that was handed over by Craven District Council, along with substantial reserves, now has to begin from scratch with a business case. It calls upon officers to submit a draft business case for consideration by the executive within 6 months.
Is that an addition to the recommendation?
I put that as a recommend, and I hope it's, I mean, I'm wide open to better wording, better ideas, but yeah, basically we just needed to crack on and get a move on.
I think if we need to get to put this in front of the executive, then we need a motion along those lines that it does go to the executive.
Say that officers to submit a draft business case for consideration by the executive within 6 months.
Councillor Myers, are you going to say yes?
What to that? Well, I'll just be interested in what the officers have to say. I rather agree, with great respect to officers, that I would like the executive to be seized of this rather than the capital project board, which means that it may never reach us. But I do know that senior officers are very well aware of, well, because I've spoken to them, very well aware of how important this is to this committee and how very important it was, excuse me, to Craven District Council. I mean, I'm very well versed in this because I held the economic regeneration brief throughout the period that this was developed, and you know, it was a consideration in the TCF bid. It's a consideration in the Skipton master plan. It's a consideration in the development of sandy lands, because access there is made dangerous by the fact that there isn't a link road for our children, young people, and whoever else uses sandy lands. It's a hugely popular and beneficial provision for the people of Craven. It was part of the reason we agreed to the sacrifice of the land of the Skipton South economic development site. We then allowed housing so we could see that brought forward, because it wasn't going to happen. So for this not to happen would really undermine so much of what we were trying to do, and the huge amounts of work done by our regeneration officers and all the rest of it. So for anybody who lives this side of North Yorkshire, this must be seen to be a priority. Skipton is much bigger in terms of its impact on the local area than its size would suggest. And it's a commercial hub for the people of Craven, and it's very important that we get this right. So I'm in favour of anything that emphasises the importance of this, that sees that any business case is put forward with alacrity, and then I will be very happy to make the case for funding for this, and we'll find some somewhere. And I would think it's something that we could be looking to the combined authority for funding. And I can say this, the LEP, who the chief executive of the combined authority and others now in the combined authority team were a part of, were officers who worked for, are very, very well aware of this project. I stood in Ings Lane looking at drains and cables and all the rest of it with the chairman of the LEP 5 or 6 years ago. You know, they were involved in every step of the way, from the redevelopment of our waste depot to resurfacing Engine Shed Lane and to this proposal. So it is not, it shouldn't be news to the combined authority that it's a very important part of future-proofing Skipton.
I think there's general willingness for members to support a motion to the executive on this. We have an outline of what it might contain from Councillor Brown. Would it be in order, do we need to know the wording of that to vote on, or would we refine it?
I think we've got the basis of what we're wanting to put through to the executive in relation to that, Chair. If I get a good form of wording in consultation with Councillor Brown and Councillor Myers to make sure that that's taken through to the executive.
And Chairman and Vice Chair.
Chairman and Vice Chairman, would that be acceptable?
Okay, can we all agree that we take that action, and it's a case that has to go in front of the executive? Agreed? Thank you very much. I feel a lot better for that. Are you leaving us, Councillor Williams? Right, we come to another exciting agenda item. Nizdale Greenway Extension, public speakers.
We have 2, Chair, yes, when they will come forward. So you've got initially Mr. Robert Lloyd.
Mr. Lloyd, please. Introduce yourself, although I think we do know your name by now.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Chair. My name's Robert Lloyd, and I'm representing Hamsthwaite Parish Council and villages in Hamsthwaite who have shown overwhelming support for a safe footpath between our villages. In May 2006, following extensive consultation then, the village link footpath was high on the Parish Council's agenda. This was published in May 2006. In 2015, both the long-standing Hamsthwaite Doctor Surgery and Post Office closed and have not been replaced. Hamsthwaite residents now go to Burstwith for these services by car or by taxi or by bus, but the bus services are really infrequent. Walking, cycling is too dangerous, a fact borne out from successive surveys. In 2023, we conducted a 3-pronged survey, a stall in the village feast, and this was part of that stall, a paper survey for all households in the village, and a web-based survey. All 3 resulted in overwhelming support for a safe footpath as part of the Nidderdale Greenway extension. So that's where we link in to the Greenway. Overwhelming support. When asked for opinions of the Nidderdale Greenway extension, 1,345 responses were received, with an average score of 9.6, with 89% of respondents scoring 10, the highest score possible. Similar results have been received in the Paisley Bridge survey completed earlier, and the Burstwith survey completed a little later than ours. We received 1,117 positive written commentaries, highlighting safety, business benefits, look at Ripley, and the benefits that the Greenway has brought to Ripley. And we talk about growth, and here's a classic example of where growth can occur in the Dale. Health, children's cycling safety, and wheelchair countryside access. This is something that came as a surprise to me, but wheelchair users have really benefited from the existing Greenway, being able to get out into the countryside, and this is where they would benefit from getting all the way up to Paisley Bridge. Some saw the project as a beacon of hope. Some concerns expressed, particularly from landowners, and these need to be addressed during the sensitive design and construction. In February 2024, the comprehensive report of the Nidderdale Greenway Extension Steering Group, led by Councillor Murday, with many valuable contributions and references, supported the proposed Greenway extension, suggesting the momentum could be built by addressing sections at a time. Hamsthwaite to Burstwith is an excellent candidate to build that momentum. In conclusion, the arguments in favour of a Greenway extension all the way to Paisley Bridge from Ripley are compelling and robustly supported by the results of these extensive long-term surveys. We invite you to walk the mile. That's all it is from Hamsthwaite to Burstwith. And take care, because it's a treacherous road route and then hardly a footpath left route. We invite you to walk the mile from Hamsthwaite to Burstwith and experience what it is like. There has never been a better time to move forward on this proposal than now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've been quite lenient on time. Thank you. Next speaker.
Mr. David Byrne, Chair.
You have up to 3 minutes, sir. Did you catch that?
Smashing. Okay. Good morning. Thanks for letting me make a statement this morning. My name is David Vernon. I recently moved into Nidderdale and live at Dacre Banks. As a keen cyclist, walker and grandparent, I've taken an interest in the current status of the Nidderdale Greenway extension. Disappointed to find that the project appears to have been left in limbo for quite some time. I've also had a chance to read the latest reports and been party to some ad hoc email communications between friends and local officials. In a recent communication with Environment Director Carl Battersby, he sounded laid back about the project because he anticipated a low level of North Yorkshire Council direct involvement. So it's surprising to find that the current update report seems to imply a greater deal of North Yorkshire County Council judgment and ownership of the project than I expected. Although short of some explanations, I found the update report a bit heavy going, especially towards the end with its mathematical ifs, buts and maybes. In general, it came across as overly risk averse, unfortunately not proposing any positive way forward. This is understandable if you felt responsibility for a project that didn't have a dedicated budget. You will be naturally worried about making any commitment and tend to paint a negative picture. However, this should not be the case because North Yorkshire Council would likely play a largely supporting role.
This puts an entirely different perspective on the current position and on how things might go forward. Please don't underestimate the level of expertise, experience and effort that clearly went into the original feasibility report. It is only to be expected that further details and cost confirmations need to be thrashed out. Surely it's not much to ask of the North Yorkshire Council to be supportive of the National Nidderdale Greenway extension in principle, with intentions to act positively to help as much as possible, largely within existing budgets and resource. There must be a case for confidence in pursuing such a project as the Nidderdale Greenway extension, because local organisations have already proved their abilities by successfully delivering the Harrogate to Clint stretch of the Greenway. This can be a model. The costs were controlled, the risks managed, and the resulting benefits are proven. To summarise, I'd like to ask councillors to avoid being swept up by the negativity of the update report, especially as it doesn't reflect the actual risks and responsibilities of the county council. Ask councillors to press officers to keep the door open for staged developments of the Greenway extension and adopt the principle that the project is extremely desirable and to be encouraged to go further by giving all assistance possible.
Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have officer representation on this? Who's speaking first of the officers? You're Alexander Kay, Senior Transport Planning Officer. You all have fancy titles. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
If you'd give your presentation, please.
Thank you. Good morning, members. We're here today to update members on the review of the Nidderdale Greenway Extension Feasibility Study. The review included analysis of key metrics, assessment of scheme viability, and the identification of challenges and risks. The main issues identified included cost increases, creation order costs and resource, landowner support, funding constraints, high maintenance costs, and in summary, as you'll see, project is not aligned with NYC's current active travel priorities. Local support, as detailed in the steering group paper, which with apologies was unfortunately not referenced within my report, and obviously also referenced by the public speakers today, is acknowledged. This factor does not impact the appraisal methods used and therefore does not affect the outcome presented in my report today. That highlights the key points, but obviously I would welcome some questions.
Has your colleague anything to add at this time?
Not at this time, Chair, but I will happily take any questions from members.
Thank you. I have Councillor Staveley first. I should really take the more local member, but I have to be in order. Right. Councillor Andrew Murdy, please.
Thanks, David, and thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Just to put a little perspective on this, the Area Committee back in April last year considered the steering group report and sent that back to office for consideration. And actually that has not happened. What you've done is looked at the Sustrans feasibility study, which was published in 2021, and which the steering group was set up to examine and report on, which is what we did. And it's what the Area Committee considered. And frankly, I think this committee should say to the officers, you need to go back and actually do what we asked, rather than concentrate on the Sustrans report, which is one-sided, I'd say. And it clearly is. Now, in terms of the project itself, we know it has huge support from the local population. As many of you know from the Cause to Garsdale multi-user pathway in North Yorkshire, the problem with development of these pathways is in landowner negotiation. And that's what costs money for the council. And it's unavoidable that the council, if this project goes ahead, will take charge of that. However, the cost of actually construction, which you cover in your report, it's often largely met from completely different sources, from non-governmental sources. And it's pretty likely that actually Sustrans has a great deal of money and has supported these sorts of projects elsewhere. In terms of how the project reflects the aims of North Yorkshire Council, it supports those aims in all sorts of ways: active travel, healthy environment, opening the protected landscapes to public enjoyment, multiple accessibility for those with limited ability to traverse these pathways. So, forgive me, I think that the way forward is for me to investigate other sources of funding, and clearly there are potentials from the combined authority. And I think that's one thing I can do with the support of this committee. But I think also it would be worthwhile officers taking this back and looking at the steering group report, which is what was set up to examine the Sustrans report.
Thank you. Councillor David Staveley.
Thank you, Chair. Clearly this project is important to the residents, and it does speak to an aspiration towards active travel. Certainly as an enthusiastic driver, anything that gets push bikes and walkers off the road is a good thing for me. But I have to say that I think if we look to 4.1, that would appear to me to be the key, because there is active travel, as has been discussed at the scrutiny committee that I chair at North Yorkshire, is very much under the remit of the combined authority now. And I feel that the case needs to be made to that process and to that authority to get the funding for this, because it seems to be absolutely a slam dunk. It is active travel. That's what we're looking at. So I think, if anything, this committee needs to commend our officers to, as I say, if there's a suggestion that an evidence base needs to be re-evaluated, then that's fair enough. But ultimately, that this needs to be put as a business case brought to the combined authority once their active travel strategy is in place, because I feel that that's the place that we will get the funding to get them to make this happen. But other than that, yeah, perfectly laudable. As I say, I'll be happy to see people cycling and walking on there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Andy Brown, please.
It's going to be my day for agreeing with David. It's bad look out, really. Essentially, this is all about vision, isn't it? I mean, and I think what's disappointing is the officer's report is about technicalities of why we can't. And I can understand why, we haven't got the money in North Yorkshire, we haven't got the resources in North Yorkshire, so the emphasis there is negative. But there's huge potential of the vision of this, and our job is to back vision. Surely. I mean, if you look at something like the Pennine Way, that was difficult to get the landowners behind. That was difficult to get the cash behind. Look at the impact of it on tourism. Look at the impact of the coast to coast. If you want to choose where to go with your family to go on a safe cycling route in the Dales, you go to the Derbyshire Dales, because we haven't got anything of any length that competes with our wonderful things like the Tissington Trail. This gives us the opportunity to do it. So I think we should not be accepting the recommendation. I think we should be instead endorsing the vision of creating an enhanced Nidderdale Greenway extension and calling on the combined authority to provide, to actively seek funds to progress the scheme. So that's basically what I'm suggesting. Endorse the vision of creating an enhanced Nidderdale Greenway extension and calling on the combined authority to actively seek resources to progress the scheme.
Thank you.
As a formal proposal.
Officer intervention.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I should have introduced myself earlier. I think most of you know me. I'm Andrew Brown. I'm the Principal Public Rights of Way Officer. So one of the challenges we will have with this route is, should it come to fruition, it will most likely become a public bridleway, which will be the will be the liability of North Yorkshire Council to maintain. Getting funding for building schemes is fine. Getting funding to maintain schemes is extremely challenging in the current financial climate. We have the biggest public rights of way network in the country. Our finances are extremely stretched in maintaining the existing network, and this scheme will be very, very infrastructure heavy. There's at least one major 30-metre bridge to replace on the former railway line, for instance. We also have a number of footpaths in the scheme that are proposed to be upgraded to bridleway, a lot of which run alongside the river. They're prone to flooding, they're prone to major flooding events due to climate change. And again, the solutions proposed in the Sustrans report are very engineering heavy, which will be a considerable maintenance burden for the council going forward. I'd also like to advise members that the nature of this proposal, the Sustrans proposal, is very different from the existing section of the Greenway coming out of Harrogate. That is an urban fringe route. It is on the former railway line. It is tarmacked. It is level. It is wide. It is an exceptionally popular and good route, but the route proposed in the extension will be a lot narrower. It won't be as direct. There will be on-road sections. There'll be sections through farmland. And I don't honestly believe it will be as popular as the Sustrans report makes out. However, we think there is a germ of an idea here that can be delivered at considerably less cost to meet the majority of the aspirations of the proposal, mainly to provide a safe cycling route from Harrogate to Pateley Bridge. I am sorry we didn't have time to fully consider the recommendations of the steering group, but we'll take that away. And also, I think some of the points raised by the public speakers today are something we haven't fully considered either, particularly the benefit for walking between the two villages. So again, we will take that away and reanalyse that. So thank you, Chair.
It sounds like we've probably got an answer that we wanted there. Just there, just to say that the one in the national parks has taken a huge amount of officer time, and we aren't over the line by a long way with that one either, are we? So because of multiple landowners, what I was going to mention though was the active travel scheme that we did develop in Craven when two officers sat over there who were instrumental in it, even though the mayor claims he did it. Is the canal towpath, which is a spectacular version of how you can bring something forward on using existing infrastructure to a large extent in order to deliver something. So please use other people who got the funding for those schemes and brought them forward. You know, we do seem to still a bit siloed in North Yorkshire. You know, the economic development teams can bring funding forward from different pots as to what other people look at. So I think working together, I think there is a germ of an idea that can be worked through here. So let's keep going.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I mean, well, I think I'll leave it to Andrew to propose a way forward, but I'm grateful for the suggestion of a way forward, and then, you know, we can see what opportunities there are for funding. I'm sure the mayor will come and have his photograph taken, as he did at the completion of the towpath restoration, although in fact when that funding was agreed he hadn't yet been elected, but he may actually give you some money and come and have his photograph taken, so let's hope.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with progressing this. However, I always like to see that meetings tend to generate themes, and there's been a theme here of the costs involved in a lot of these projects, and even projects that have been mentioned that are not even on the agenda. And we're talking about a Sustrans study suggests £4 million, £4 million for some loose surfacing being put on a railway line. and we've just mentioned the connection of the railway line between Skipton and Cole. The figures there must be absolutely astronomical. If we're talking about £2 to £4 million for a 160-yard stretch of road, £4 million for this. Gosh, some of these proposals that we've got are just unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah, I do support it. I kind of think that somewhere along the line, some of the contractors that local authorities use, I think, are charging local authorities much more for projects than they are in the private sector. There we go. I've said it. I see other projects that go on.
You might get sued.
Well, I just see that sometimes our projects are woo, and you see other things going on and you think, that's fairly reasonable. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
I think our officers will probably fill you in on this, Andy, but it's down to the frameworks that they have to work on. And the local government's just far different to the public sector. So as we found out with Engine Shed Lane when we started that project, and we suddenly found we had to rectify all sorts of nonsense that we found underground, and costs spiraled.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the council has to be able to be held to a different standard. So I'm sure the officers will fill in on the details of that.
Sadly not, Chair. I would like to reassure members that certainly from a rights of way perspective, we use a wide range of local contractors and, are always seeking best value with our scheme. So if we were to deliver this scheme, we would be looking for it on a least cost, best value basis.
Councillor Andrew Murdy.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief.
And a form of word perhaps to strengthen this.
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful for the committee for the support. That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say, so far it's been going for 30 years, since it was first suggested by, I think, the Mayor of Paley Bridge in a minute in 1996. These things don't happen overnight, and I completely understand that many of us will no longer be on the council when this is first opened. Never mind David's case. But what I suggest is, Chairman, that I enter into some discussions with the rights of way officers, and we see in what way we can take this forward with the combined authority and with the help of the executive NYC, and I'll report back at the next meeting of the area committee.
I prefer that you report back to Vice Chairman and myself and our officer as to what progress is being made.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we agree that way forward on this greenway? Well done. Thank you, officers. Back to work. Right. If we could perhaps just get up a couple of gears. Right. Order. Item 9, housing need provision strategy and interventions. There are no recommendations on this report. In fact, it isn't a report, it's just a profile, I believe, of strategy. We've no housing officers present, so you can earn whatever that officer gets them for the day.
Well, they're all in Harrogate at a conference, Chairman. David has got the slides, and I know was going to take members through the report, but I assume people have read it. So, I mean, perhaps the easiest way forward, and if everybody agrees, is if anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them, and if I can't answer them, I'll get answers for you. So, thanks.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. He's turning all those words in that report into action. And we've mentioned that part of philosophy earlier in the meeting. Any questions to executive members that deals with housing? Mr. Potter.
We've got the housing needs data, and obviously it's a 1 year. I wonder if that is increasing or decreasing. Do we know? Because we are starting to see, especially around the Harrogate area, a lot of houses built and therefore a lot of affordable housing provision. I'm wondering if that is going up, down, staying the same. Economic climates do alter this, but and I wonder as well, there's nothing on, no data that's seen on the hostel, especially the Skipton one, because it was always a very good litmus test as to its occupancy, as to where we are here with affordable housing, but more with homelessness and stuff like that in our area. So do we know where that is? Is it fully occupied? Because when that's full, we normally look like we're in trouble for a while.
I'll get that information for Councillor Foster, share it with the.
Right, no other points. We'll receive this document then. Any member has any light bulb moments, get in touch with Councillor Myers. Thank you. Do we have an update from the youth councils? Is that to be read out to us?
It's me again, Chair, and I'm reading it out again, so please bear with me. At the previous meeting, I reported on our anti-vaping campaign, our involvement in Sheep Day and the Colour Run, and the awareness store we delivered in support of Women's Aid. I also outlined the difficulties we faced in delivering the 2025 Keep Skipton Tidy competition due to changes in how litter picking equipment could be accessed. These changes unfortunately meant that a number of schools and youth groups were unable to participate. Following the committee, I sent an email to Councillor Richard Foster on the 11th of September, setting out the full background and attaching all related correspondence. We remain committed to running the competition in 2026, and we will greatly welcome support from the committee establishing a clear and practical system for equipment access so that all groups can take part. Members previously encouraged the Youth Council to widen our links beyond the centre of Skipton. Since then, we have begun to strengthen our engagement with neighbouring communities where young people have a clear connection to Skipton. We have shared our new recruitment posters with local parish councils, and we are grateful for the positive response from MC with Eastby Parish Council. Councillor Pepiate has circulated our poster locally and highlighted that 2 recent housing developments in MC and Eastby have brought more younger residents into the parish, increasing the relevance of youth representation. He has invited me to attend their February meeting to discuss this further. The recruitment efforts have already had a positive impact. Since the last area committee meeting, we have welcomed 3 new members to Skipton Youth Council, and we expect further interest once printed posters are displayed in community spaces across the area. We have also produced an internal document titled Steps for Success. This sets out the way our Youth Council operates and the standard we have established for supporting young members. It has been formally approved within our group and will shortly be shared with other youth councils in the region, including Harrogate and Ripon. Looking ahead, we are preparing an online survey for young people and residents across the wider Skipton area. The survey will ask what issues they would like us to focus on in our next annual campaign following the completion of our anti-vaping work. This will help ensure that our future priorities reflect the concerns of young people themselves and that our campaigns continue to carry a clear community mandate. On behalf of Skipton Youth Council, I would like to thank the committee for its continued interest in our work. We remain committed to representing young people in the area and contributing positively to the wider community.
Right, so there you have it. We don't have a representative with us, so could we just note that report? Thank you very much. That takes us to committee work programme, which is in your documents. Anything to add? Councillor Andy Brown, please.
I'm just wondering whether we could get Airedale in to give us a briefing on how far they've reached and, whether that would be useful.
It'd be more than useful. Early, please. Perhaps even the next meeting. It's a very sensitive live issue, and it will save lives as a live issue. Councillor Myers?
I can say I did speak to the Airedale team, for want of a better word, when I was in our North Yorkshire health thing, and I said we would like to see them. They were very willing to come, so yeah, good to set that up.
Members wish that to be on the March meeting. Sorry, David Staveley first.
But just under that, if I can, and just to ask them what services they will be providing at Airedale Hospital under the new plans, because I think there's talk that some departments will be there, some departments won't be there, some departments will be in the new hospital, some won't. So an understanding of what they're going to do, I think, would be really, really useful for members.
We'll seek that clarity. Councillor Staveley.
Yeah, just picking up on that theme really, because there has been suggestions in the early stages of this latest phase of development at Airedale that there would be moves towards devolving some of the services out to the further reaches of the area. So I think a broader outline of their strategy going forward will be useful. Clearly, a facility in my area that's been under threat previously, Castleberg, was one that was come under the microscope, and there have been aspirations to try and get a more central new facility in Settle that would encompass various elements of healthcare, and Airedale's input in that would have been it will be absolutely essential to making the business case. So it will be useful for us to understand not only what's going to be happening at Airedale, but how they see service delivery across the district by themselves in terms of their engagement with the GP surgeries, etc. Because obviously we've had GP surgeries here in the past who have or have not delivered, and in previous incarnations on Craven District we used to get representations from the GP's representatives. I can't think of the name of what committee it was given back then, but it was Colin Rennick that came, gave us an update on it, which was very useful. So I think something a little bit more in depth than just what's happening with the bricks and mortar at Airedale will be useful across the patch.
Right. We'll have to give Airedale a brief for him to respond to. I don't. Sorry, order and then lads. And Andy Holloway.
We recently had a seminar at North Yorkshire where we were introduced to a resource called Land Terrier, and they produced a map which highlighted all the land that was in North Yorkshire's ownership that had been brought in from the district councils. And they used an example.
And borough councils.
And borough councils. And they used an example of Scarborough, and half of Scarborough seemed to be kind of included on this particular map. And I was quite surprised and very interested in. And I think when we're looking at a council which is wanting to rationalise its property, maybe make better use of it, I think it would be really useful for it to be available to members. And I have requested it, but I'm just wondering how much appetite there is for it to be done on a constituency basis, so that we are aware of what we own, what's next to what we own, what we can maybe use. I think it would be very, very useful. I have requested it. I've been told it's not entirely accurate, but I can kind of live with 75% accuracy. Because you tell me we don't own the land, fair enough, I'll shut up about it. But I think it would be useful for us on area committees to either have a presentation about it or to be have that to be accessible to members.
We've been given to understand that map put together, transfer of assets, wasn't accurate. Well, that's theft of land, isn't it? I think the request that we have a Skipton and Ripon map, however inaccurate it is, at least it's a starting point. Andy Brown.
Been told I'm not allowed as a member to see the map, and I'd want to know what we own, and I think we all do. So I would suggest at the very least it's an agenda item next time with the map being presented to us in layers, so we can look at what's happening in our areas and come forward with ideas of how the land might be used better.
Well, it'd be helpful to know what we're talking about, wouldn't it?
It's always helpful to know what we're talking about, Chairman, but it doesn't always happen. In my experience, I rarely know what I'm talking about. It's all about sounding convincing, I found. Do we mean an asset register, really? Rather than, are we talking about land or buildings and land? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's assets.
Yeah, it's assets. Yeah. So we should, I mean, any of us should be able to access the assets register. It's a public document, I think, if I remember right. But yeah, so yeah.
The map where it is, but to have it on a map is really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to ask for this document for the next meeting and see what we get. I think that we've amended the work programme, so we've done that bit. I have no urgent items to discuss. I have 2 or 3 just points very quickly to update members on. There's a young man sat over there, very patient, who has been helping Steve Loach with administration. Christian Brennan?
Yes.
Stand up, sir. Christian has decided to leave North Yorkshire employment, and he's made a strange decision. He's going to Hull. But we thank you for all your support, Christian, and a successful career. And the last member of staff that has to be mentioned on my right here is Stephen Loach. I go back working with Stephen when I was younger, perhaps not young, but middle-aged, when I first came across him. Stephen Loach is leaving North Yorkshire. He hasn't told me what he's going to do, but he's too young to retire.
Oh, I am retiring.
So, Steve Loach, popular officer, and we members always found him, he was the go-to officer to get matters progressed. You've been a magnificent service for North Yorkshire County and now North Yorkshire Council. We thank you for all that work. And whatever you're going to do in future, as long as it's legal, then our best wishes go with you.
Yeah.
And on that, you can all go Christmas shopping. But good Yorkshire men won't spend any money. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
God bless.